before we get to the Grand Prix weekend. Aston Martin and their driver, Lance Stroll. And this statement put out today, Lance Stroll confirming he will be back behind the wheel of the AMR 25 this weekend for the Canadian Grand Prix. We will be seeing Lance Stroll on track this weekend. So that answers that question, if we were going to see him or not. The Stroll speculation, there seems to be rumors of him having a real crash out after a poor qualifying session, exacerbating a wrist injury that he had before, an injury that I think might go back all the way to the beginning of the 2023 season, if I'm not mistaken. Stroll so far, though, let's give him some credit. He has scored the majority of Aston Martin's points. Currently sits in 12th in the driver's standings with 14 championship points, leading Fernando Alonso, who earned his first points of the season this past weekend this past race weekend anyway, at the Spanish Grand Prix, his home Grand Prix. Stroll hasn't found points since the Miami sprint race in round 6. I think he's going to be looking forward to another really good opportunity this weekend to try to impress in front of his home crowd, in front of his fellow native countrymen, his fellow Canadians. Overall, though, still been relatively quiet for Lance Stroll. Not too many incidents that I can remember offhand. He survived Australia in that insane downpour, back and forth weather condition to score some really, really, really good points. I think he had a decent performance in China, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken there. I think he also scored points there, and then, again, rounding out his points total in Miami. But otherwise been relatively quiet. As far as upgrades are concerned for Aston Martin, I think they've only brought one upgrade, or at least one major upgrade package. That was during Imola, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Frustrations, though, for Stroll. If he's frustrated at this level of the season, still pretty, I'd say relatively early into the season. We still have quite a ways to go. I think the big emphasis for Stroll is just to remain patient. Understand the long-term vision. You're going to be sacrificing a lot this year for the potential of something really, really, really good next year. If frustrations are boiling over for Stroll at this stage, if he's going to be unable to maximize what he has in front of him at this point, we could all probably sit here and be pretty honest. He's probably got some level of job security, knowing that he'll probably be in the seat opposite of Fernando Alonso next year. The big plus being that he's going to be driving an Adrian Newey designed car. He just needs to remember patience, because next year the car is probably going to be better comparatively. New regulations, but there are going to be a couple of hitches. This is not going to be a championship contender, at least not in my opinion, from jump in 2026. Adrian Newey's a master. He's one of the most championships of any designer that I can think of, that I know of in F1 history. Oh, little bug. In F1 history. So having Adrian Newey on your side is a massive, massive, massive plus. He's going to be there for quite a little while. I think he signed a 3-year, $100 million deal. So Lawrence Stroll gave him a bag. But a few hitches in Aston Martin's 2026. Newey reporting that their simulator data correlation isn't quite to par on what they're seeing on track. So that's an issue that he estimates can take a couple of years of real fine-tuning to kind of resolve down to Adrian Newey's liking. Simulators are simulators. Don't get me wrong. You can only really get but so much from these things. But at the same time, if Adrian Newey is commenting on it being so far off and so drastically far off, even with the rest of the factory being state-of-the-art, brand new, the most updated wind tunnel on the grid, if the simulator work isn't correlating, you might have a tough time translating your upgrades. You might have a tough time translating your aerodynamic packages to the actual car to reflect real-life performance. But Newey starting also 2026 a bit behind. He couldn't enter the Aston Martin fold until March this year, after the announcement coming of his departure from Red Bull last year. The timeline being that he wouldn't be able to officially begin with Aston Martin until March. Everybody else getting, January and February to start development on the 2026 car. So a couple months behind the 8 ball, not being able to formally join on time anyway. Also, the switch from Mercedes to Honda power units next year is going to be worth monitoring too. This hasn't really been talked about a lot. I know I've probably mentioned it a couple times in this podcast. The sentiment I've heard from other F1 fans, at least in my own circle, are that it's not going to be as big of a deal. But I think it is worth noting that Honda weren't originally going to be a part of this regulation. Their original plans were to pull out of Formula One at the end of this regulation, at the end of their contract with Red Bull, and focus on, I think, more green initiatives, if I'm not mistaken. But they were pulled back into things by Lance Stroll. And those are some of the things that I'm a little bit worried about. Obviously, Fernando Alonso, he's got some age on him, the oldest rookie of all time. But there is some optimism in this project that I think if you're a guy like Lance Stroll, just hang in there, fam. Just hang in there, stay patient, keep people on your side, because the optimism surrounding the Silverstone-based team, the state-of-the-art factory being built by Lance's father, Lance Stroll. Dude's on a mission to build a title contender. At least that's what he's voiced the entire time that he's owned this stake in what used to be Racing Point, what used to be Force India. There's still going to be a learning curve next year. There's going to be the most successful designer in F1 history, though, on their side. The experience factor of Alonso, boatloads of cash and resources being sunk into this project. It feels like this is just going to be a matter of time before Aston Martin really starts to hit their stride, before they really start to take off. And if you're Lance Stroll, I'm telling you, man, just hang in there. It's going to maybe even be a tad choppy next year. Nothing's perfect in this sport. You can't ever have 100% total perfection in this sport. But having Newey on your side, having all these resources at your side, having all these incredibly brilliant engineers backing this project, having the funding, having the sponsors, having everything, just be patient. You're going to be contending. You're going to be fighting at the front as long as you, Lance Stroll, can drive. As long as you can do it, fam. I think if you're a Lance Stroll fan out there, let me know in the comments. Do you think Aston Martin are going to be a force to be reckoned with starting next season? Your thoughts on this F1 project overall? I want to hear about it. I know Kevin's going to be lurking around. We both want to be hearing about your thoughts on 2026. How do you see Aston Martin projecting into this next regulation set? I want to know your thoughts on this project overall. Let me know down in the comments below.